Well, it's shocking to some. It wasn't shocking to me. What was shocking was that we made it to this point without a resignation. I think the resignation was, in a sense, past due, but I think the governor has done the right thing today in stepping aside. As far as where things go from here, he won't be in office after 2 weeks, and I think there will be a desire on everyone's part to turn the page, at least on gubernatorial leadership and on policy discussions. I don't think there will be a desire to make this the single focus of what Albany does for the next 6 months, which is what would have been the case had the governor stayed in office. Now, some of the scandals that the governor is involved in involve things other than his own behavior toward women. And for example, the issue of what happened regarding the nursing homes and COVID in terms of the reporting of the data, but also how that entire process was managed for the people involved. That's something that I think the legislature will rightly want to continue to look into, because that's more than just about one person and their behavior toward other people. But I think as far as the sexual harassment issue, I think as far as the impeachment issue goes, I think there will be a consensus and a collective desire on everyone's part to move forward from here and to start over with a new governor who's, if we just set aside Andrew Cuomo leaving office and just think about Kathy Hochul as a new governor, there's some exciting things about that, particularly for people upstate. First upstate governor in over a century, first woman governor that the state has had. Those are pretty big new developments for the state's politics. Well, it does open a door for her because she will be the governor of New York. I think a question that she'll be sorting out politically is, does she want to stand for a term of her own in a year? And if that's the case, then she'll be under some pressure, I think, to start building her own political resume with some accomplishments that she can point to in her time in office in order to run on. But also certainly opens a door for a lot of ambitious Democrats who were thinking about the governor's office. And now, in a sense, that seat will be open in a way. I mean, there will be an incumbent. That incumbent has to decide whether or not she wants to run. And then if she doesn't, then the seat will be completely open. And even if she does run, there will be a perception that there is a political opportunity there. So you're going to see a lot of political jockeying throughout the state, not only for the Democrats, but also the Republicans sensing a moment of opportunity as well. Well, a lot of that agenda, as you just pointed out, will be given to her. And certainly the continuing the fight against COVID is going to be a huge issue for the state of New York. Getting control and getting a handle on the Delta variant, and then perhaps other variants that we don't even know about at this point that could emerge. And so that's going to be certainly, issue number one and a top issue, even if we are able to get a better handle on it. And then the additional money that could be coming into the state through an infrastructure package, and then questions about what next year's budget will look like, given that this year's was at a record high and took some of the stimulus money and basically used it to engage in new state spending. And there was some criticism about that and whether that would be sustainable and for how long. So she's going to have to sort all that out with the legislature. So those are going to be some of the things that she'll be dealing with. Those are all opportunities, though, as well as challenges. So if she provides effective leadership in battling COVID, that is something that she'll be able to run on in 2022. The other thing that she has going for her is the fact that she is a woman. She will be for the state a fresh face in that regard. And so she won't have the baggage of some of Governor Cuomo's scandals around her neck, because she will be a different face and a different gender. And so that she'll be able to, I think, have a clean break, if you will, from an administration that she was part of. Now, at the same time, there will also be questions of how much was she involved in some of these other things that have plagued the Cuomo administration in the last year, whether we're talking about the nursing home issue or we're talking about another kind of issue. So there is going to be baggage, but also opportunity for her. Well, that's an interesting question. She's going to have to think about that awfully quickly, and probably already has been thinking about it. I would imagine that part of her and her team's preparations in the last few weeks have been thinking about that. In the previous case, we had someone who was completely unexpected come in, Richard Ravitch, come in and play that role. So, you know, it's a pretty, if we take that as precedent, it's a pretty wide open slate. So that'll be an important early decision for her, and it'd be interesting to see who she picks for that. There's a lot of questions there that I think are going to be really interesting. How does she relate with the legislature? Prior to becoming lieutenant governor, I think it was fair to say she was known as a more moderate Democrat. Will she continue in that vein? Will she be the political backstop that Andrew Cuomo was to the more left ideas and policy proposals that were coming out of the legislature, particularly now that the center of gravity politically in the state Senate has shifted so far to the left in the last 2 or 4 years. And so the legislature probably will perceive an opportunity here with a new governor that they may be able to get some things that Andrew Cuomo was keeping them from getting. So they're going to perceive a political opportunity at the same time that she's looking for political opportunities. And how will that play out in terms of more liberal policies versus more conservative resistance to those policies? It's going to be fascinating the next year and a half. Well, I think I've said this already in a different way, but the tensions and the struggle between upstate and downstate New York have been such a central feature of the state's politics for really a number of decades now. Here, all of a sudden, you have a governor who's from upstate. And how does that change that dynamic? How will that change those budget meetings? How will that change the access that upstate legislators and upstate leaders have to the governor and the governor's office? Those are, I think, really big questions, and they're ones that, again, there are both challenges and opportunities here for the representatives from upstate, and now this new governor who is from upstate.